serves on the Foreign Relations Committee. And I wanted to read to you something from the Wall Street Journal editorial page about the Democrats against this nominee, saying that Democrats say they don't trust Mr. Trump, but in denying him senior advisors, they make it more likely he will govern by himself. Mark it down as one more example that hatred for Mr. Trump has caused many of his opponents to abandon rational judgment. And then right before air, I noticed this tweet from Philippe Reines, who of course worked for Hillary Clinton, and he said to Senator Bob Corker, Mike Pompeo deserves a vote and confirmation as Secretary of State. Remember, both Hillary Clinton and John Kerry got 94 votes. Well, you know what's memorable, Senator Corker? Merrick Garland getting 0 votes, so suck it up. And I think this is, the Democrats, to me, had a pretty untenable position of not supporting Mike Pompeo, but Merrick Garland, the Supreme Court nominee from President Obama, who did not get a vote in 2008, apparently that's where they're going to try to hang their hat. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, very different situation. You're absolutely right. Traditionally, secretaries of state are confirmed by huge numbers. Colin Powell was confirmed by a unanimous consent vote. John Kerry by over 90 votes. Hillary Clinton, as just was noted, I think it was about 85 votes for her. But the point was that people believed that the president had the right to have his people in place, and particularly with regard to Secretary of State, the question is whether you're qualified. And Mike Pompeo is eminently qualified. And this is a guy who graduates at the top of his class at West Point, Army officer, Harvard Law School, magna cum laude, goes on to become an active member of the House Intelligence Committee, CIA, where he's done a fine job, and he's qualified to do the job. The president needs somebody in that position. If you care about the country and what direction we're heading, you should want to have somebody there. I noted yesterday that when we find out that Mike Pompeo had actually gone to Pyongyang to sit down with Kim Jong-un with the hope of seeing if there is a way to have a constructive meeting about denuclearizing the peninsula, that Senator Blumenthal on that same day said that Mike Pompeo disdains diplomacy. I don't understand how they're going to be able to sustain that position. Yeah, I mean, I was there for the hearing, and I sat through a lot of the back and forth with the Democrats, and he not only does not disdain diplomacy, he realizes that soft power is absolutely critical. And he said, you know, much like Colin Powell, others who've been in uniform and then become Secretary of State, he said that as a military officer, former military officer in particular, he appreciates the fact that soft power. I think he's kind of like General Mattis in that regard. You know, General Mattis wants him there and wants to have somebody strong there because he wants to use diplomacy to avoid war. I also wanted to have you on to talk about the online sex trafficking bill that the president signed this afternoon. Take a listen.
You look at human trafficking is worse than it's ever been in the history of this world, and who would think in this modern day age? And they're using very sophisticated equipment, and they use the internet better than practically anybody uses the internet. I don't know about the historical relevance in terms of the largest problem in the world ever at this point, but the online portion of it did actually cause a huge amount of an increase and risk for people being trafficked. And how did your bill help protect them? Well, first of all, we spent 3 years studying this, and the president's right that unfortunately here in this country, in this century, we've seen an increase in trafficking. And the trafficking is primarily attributable to the increase to the online presence of websites like Backpage.com that are selling women and children online. Our legislation, I think, has already, in just the week's time that it's been in effect, resulted in the shutdown of a lot of these websites, maybe over half of them, because for the first time ever, people are going to be able to sue. Prosecutors are going to be able to prosecute these cases, and so the legislation was absolutely necessary. It simply changed the federal law to enable people to go after these websites that are doing illegal activity online. And thank you, Dana, because you've been talking about this issue for a long time. I learned a little bit more about it, and they want me to go, so I just have to give you the last word here. But I think people don't realize it. It's not just something that's happening somewhere else. It could be happening right around you, even to people that you know, especially women. Community, and we've made huge progress. We got to keep it up. And again, thank you for raising the awareness over time. Well, thanks for all you did to try to get it passed and working bipartisanly. And of course, the president signed it, and hopefully it does some good. Senator Rob Portman, thank you.